Good evening, my friends. You are very welcome along to today's transfer news roundup, where I'm going to try and answer the question, what is happening with Alexander Isak, with Marc Guéhi, and with some of Liverpool's surplus to requirements players, the likes of KOSTAS Tsimikas. Over the next few minutes, we're going to try and figure that out together. As always, of course, I want to know your thoughts. Feel free to let me know in the comment section. Drop a like on this video if you enjoy it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Before we get stuck into it, just a little reminder, the latest episode of the Anfield Agenda podcast with myself, Chris Stonage and Mr. Connor Crosby all dropped earlier on this morning. 11 a.m. they went out on Spotify and on YouTube for everybody. So if you do get a chance, please do check it out. Right, let's get cracking. Federico Chiesa and his agent have informed Liverpool now of a clear desire to stay, said Fabrizio Romano. He's considered leaving in the past, as we heard before, June, July, that type of time. But now with Diaz leaving and more space, apparently, in the starting 11, or at least in the playing squad, Federico's going to stay. So look, we'll take that. That's from Fabrizio Romano, and that makes me very happy, and I'm sure you guys as well. The real key here, though, will be, will he get the game time over the course of the season? And I guess that's up to Arna. Right, Crystal Palace. We do know that they are closing in on a replacement for Marc Guéhi, which is why this story is starting to get a little bit more interesting. We mentioned to you yesterday that they're considering Rennes' Jeremy Jacquet, and it looks like 35 million could be a number there to get that deal done. So keep an eye on his name, because if they bring him in, it's a good sign for us moving in for Marc Guéhi. David Ornstein said on Marc Guéhi, if he leaves Crystal Palace now, Guéhi only has eyes for Liverpool. Now, so that's Romano that said it. Ornstein has said it. It's very clear Marc Guéhi wants to come to Liverpool if indeed he does leave Palace. With them moving in for a replacement, surely all signs are pointing to a positive outcome. He went on to say the Merseyside club believe they already possess 4 elite central defenders, so we're not expected to seek an alternative if they fail to land the 25-year-old. So again, it seems for us, like Isak, it's Guéhi or nothing, and well, at least the nothing in this scenario means Canade is still there, so we still have the body, but in attack, that's the area of concern now. It's mad how that has shifted, by the way, over the last few weeks. Look at 2 weeks ago, I was saying centre-back is the area I was most concerned about. Now that we've brought in Giovanni Leone, my focus is switched back to the attack. So, this from James Pearce. He said, Alexander Isak will be the perfect addition to the forward lines and the options that I was going to say Jurgen Klopp. I've done this so many times this season. Arne Slot currently possesses. There's so far no sign of them moving on to a plan B. And I'm going to be honest with you folks, I don't know if there is a plan B at this point. Certainly every article I read, everybody's fully focused on Isak. I'm not hearing names mentioned for a plan B, so it feels like there is no plan B at this point. We must be very confident we get this deal done. Right, Craig Hope of the Daily Mail, this is what he's had to say. More Yohan Visa developments expected today, and Isak future directly linked. The officials have been named for our trip to St James's Park to take on Newcastle next Monday. Your referee for that game will be Simon Hooper. His assistants, Adrian Holmes and Simon Long. Fourth official, Tony Harrington. And VAR, John Brooks, with assistant VAR, Stephen Meredith. So no Michael Oliver anywhere mentioned there, which is, I'll take that as a bonus to start off. Right, back to Craig Hope again. He said Isak's future is directly linked to any striker incoming or not for Newcastle. Visa has been seen as the banker for a few weeks, which is why Newcastle have waited. If Yohan Visa does not happen, the chances of Isak going reduce dramatically. Liverpool are watching closely. So, look, I get that Brentford want top money for the player at this point, but the 60 million price tag is absolutely farcical for a player who at the start of the window was being spoken about as a 25, 30, maybe 35 million pound player. The player himself, Visa, believes he was told he could be sold for 26 million. So again, we've another club here unwilling to move forward on and maybe breaking promises. Right, Fabrizio Romano has said, for Isak, he only wants Liverpool. For Liverpool, they only want Isak. Liverpool have not approached any other player. Worrying stuff, dangerous stuff, risky stuff, but if it pays off, rewarding stuff. Right, let's move on to KOSTAS now. A report coming out of his homeland of Greece said, if KOSTAS doesn't have the offers he wants from the Premier League or other clubs in Europe, a return to Olympiacos can be an option for him on loan. So let's keep an eye on that and see what happens with KOSTAS over the last, 13 days now of the transfer window. Right, Got to move on to a story from Henry Winter, who was on TalkSport, and I wanted to get your take on this because he was speaking about the situation with Isak, and I kind of disagree with some of what Henry, who was a fantastic journalist, has had to say. I know he wouldn't do that, but why does Isak deserve a loyalty bonus? So they're talking about whether Isak would put in a transfer request here, and he goes on to say he doesn't deserve one, basically. He doesn't deserve a loyalty bonus. He's halfway through his contract with Newcastle, and if he hands in a transfer request, he would, of course, forgo some of that money. He goes on to say Liverpool should put in a proper offer. This really bugs me, by the way. The amount of people who are just kind of washing their hands of 110 to 120 million pound bid as a derisory offer. It's embarrassing, quite frankly, because it would be the second highest or the highest ever in the history of the Premier League. But let me keep reading anyway. Goes on to say Liverpool should put in a proper offer. 110 million pound for a player like this, particularly in a transfer window where we've seen fairly decent players move for 45 to 60 million. He's an elite level player, which is why Liverpool understandably want him. Put in a proper offer, he said. Maybe they're waiting until after next week's game against Newcastle because, you know, it's staining the start of the season. Liverpool have had a fantastic transfer window, but I think they need to show a bit more respect to Newcastle and respect to Isak because the offer of £110 million is low. Come on now. £110 million is a derisory offer. That's mad. It's absolute madness, and it really does frustrate me. How is that seen as a derisory offer? 110 to 120 million pound is almost a British transfer record. It is nuts that people are talking about this as if Liverpool should just go, oh well, give them everything. If Liverpool get this player for 120 to 130 million pound, I still feel we've overpaid. Because for me, in the open market, Isak's a £100 million player. So this really annoys me that so many journalists are, again, just saying, Liverpool should just cough up. Why? Why? £120 million is a good offer. To just kind of wash your hands of it, it's really frustrating, to be honest. Right, according to French outlet Le D Sport, Marseille's Neil Maupay is of interest to the GTEC Stadium, so Brentford, if they're going to lose Johan Visa. They go on to say that Brentford have entered the race to sign the player to try and bring him back to the Premier League, which of course would be a good omen for Newcastle. They're looking to bring in a striker. They believe that the signature of the player they brought in, Utara, is to replace Mbeumo, who left, so they still, in their eyes, need to bring in a replacement before they let Visa move on. Clock is ticking, folks. I still cannot believe journalists are talking about that 110 to 120 million pound offer as low when it would be the second or the highest offer in the history of the Premier League. But hey ho, everybody's losing the run of themselves in this transfer window, and it's not Liverpool's fault that everybody else are being absolutely fleeced for, well, B-Tech options in attack paying 45 to 60 million. You know, Liverpool have a valuation, and if they don't get what they deem as value, whether I agree with it or not, they will move on. So let's see what happens. For what it's worth, I still think we get Isak, but let's wait and see how the window ends. So I'll be back tonight at 8:45. We'll go through all of this in far more detail. Until then, thank you for watching. Feel free to let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you tonight. Much love.